Everybody's got problems, but sometimes we make those problems worse than they need to be. And when we do that, it's a sure sign that our mental health needs attention. Hello, I'm FrankHannah. I'm founder and president of the Initiative for Mental Health Awareness, Inc., a nonprofit corporation, and I am a retired mental health counselor. Much of the emotional stress and unnecessary anxiety and endless searching for relief that you may now be doing can be, if not eliminated, at least significantly reduced by improving your mental health. And that's exactly what this series of videos is designed to show you how to do. The videos that follow will guide you step by step through a process for understanding what mental health is, some of the objections that are going to crop up, and finally, precisely how to make the changes that will lead to an improvement. The first of these, there are three general topics that need to be addressed in this area, as I've just mentioned: the definition, the objections, and the actual process for change. The first of these is the definition of mental health itself. Existing definitions are woefully inadequate. Most of the time, many times, when you're asked to define, or when you see in the literature a definition of mental health, it is simply that it's suggested that it is simply the absence of mental illness. Well, this is no definition at all. What it is not a definition of what it is. So that's not helpful at all. Even more definitions, and scholarly ones, try to define mental health as describing the qualities or characteristics that someone displays that has good mental health. Or conversely, they can describe poor mental health by some of the attributes and behaviors that follow from that. But again, describing the characteristics, either positive or negative, do not define what the material is in and of itself. But that's what we need to do. The definition that you'll learn here very briefly, and the whole series is going to, the first part of the series, the first several videos, is to define this first segment, this first major topic, and that is the definition of what mental health is. The definition you'll learn here is based on two components in the human brain, one of which is fixed and the other of which varies in every individual. Every individual has a certain set of fixed components, and each individual has a wide number of variable components. And it's the relationship between the fixed and the variable components that determine whether our mental health is good or average or poor or whatever. It's this relationship between these two is what accounts for mental health. And understanding that and having a full knowledge of it gives you the power, the resources to make changes. And that's what we are about. The second general topic that we need to pick up after the consideration of the definition is you must know some of the objections that are going to, some of the obstacles that are going to arise when you undertake to improve your mental health. These are mainly self-sabotaging, and they are automatic. They are going to come up. I can assure you, guarantee you, how can I guarantee something for people all over the world? Nevertheless, you are going to run into some of these obstacles, and by understanding what they are and will enable you to avoid them. If you don't know that they're there and don't recognize them as such, you will not be able to be anything but a victim of their obstructions and obstacles to your change. Right along with this is a consideration of how the brain changes and how your behaviors are affected by the presence or absence of anxiety. So anxiety, while it's not an obstacle in itself, how it affects the way you act and what your objectives are under the influence of anxiety can be so different than your intentions when you are not under the influence of anxiety, can make this a significant issue that needs to be understood. How your brain operates dictates that you operate differently under one condition or the other. We'll examine that in a special video. But strangely enough, anxiety and its manifestations are not the biggest problem to and the biggest objection to making changes. That is truth. It's very strange, I'm sure, for you to hear me say that truth is an obstacle, but you'll understand what I mean by that when we get into it. Nevertheless, being aware of these obstacles will greatly facilitate your ability to make the changes that will come next. Once you are familiar with the definition and are able to avoid the obstacles that are going to be strewn in your pathway, it's time to get down to business. And that is, of course, to understand exactly how to make the changes that you will want to make in order to improve your mental health. What I will be suggesting is a 3-step process that will enable you to make those changes as you see fit and as you need to do. This is a simple process, but it is not easy. As mentioned, you are going to need to know where you're going with the direction that's provided by a definition. You need to be able to overcome the objections and obstacles to those changes, and then you will be able to go through the 3-step process. But without that foundation, without that prior knowledge, without that prior experience of dealing with the definition and the obstacles, you will not be able to fully understand or take value from the 3-step process that we will be describing. Now, please don't skip ahead to that video that describes the actual changes. I know you might be tempted to do that. Any of us would be, but that's not what is going to be most effective. Without this background material well under your belt, you will not be able to appreciate or understand the 3-step process, and if you don't understand it, it's not going to be effective, and you'll dismiss the whole thing as useless, and that would be a tragedy. There is a great deal of benefits that you are going to be able to devise, to realize from improving your mental health, and if you should throw it away simply because you're a little impatient, that would be a shame. Don't do that. Stick with the process of going through each of the videos as they are presented. Each one builds on the previous one, so without beginning at the beginning with the next video, you will not have the foundation that you need. All that said, be aware that perfect mental health, absolute perfection in this area, is not necessary to live a well-lived life. However, no one has perfect mental health, but anyone can improve in that area. And you are just about to learn how to do that, how to make the changes that will improve in this very important area, and an area that is just as important as your physical health. Note that we are not dealing here with the treatment of mental illness. That is left best to mental health professionals. And should you fall into that category of having a mental illness, please, if you have not done so already, seek out professional help. Nevertheless, no one has perfect mental health, as just mentioned, so even though you do not have a mental illness, you can certainly have poor mental health. These are two entirely distinct areas of human functioning. The unfortunate factor of having a mental illness, which hopefully does not include you, but it may. That is still a separate category from poor mental health, which every one of us is subject to having that, even though we are completely free of mental illness. Poor mental health is universal with all of us at one time or another. Mental illness, fortunately, is far, far rarer. There should be no stigma attached to dealing with either one. Don't feel reluctant to consider your mental health and acknowledge that it might need improving in yourself, because unfortunately there is so much stigma attached to having a mental illness. There's no stigma attached to either, but you certainly cannot be faulted for having poor mental health. And the ability to do something about that is what we are about here today. I'll make a little strange statement here that you will understand when we have gone through this process and you understand the definition of mental health. And that is that those who have mental illness can still have good mental health, and those without mental illness can have poor mental health. Sounds contradictory, but you'll understand that better when we get to that definition. Before we get started, there are a couple of housekeeping details that I want you to be aware of. First of all, notice that I would like for you to be very conscientious about doing the exercise that I will suggest at the end of each of the videos. These exercises are designed to help you understand the material, and if you will give these exercises some conscientious thought and write down your answer and keep track of them, keep those answers, written answers, in a file, it will help you understand the material and ensure that you have a good grasp of it, but also by keeping track of your answers, you'll have a good track record of where you've been, and that in turn helps to keep you focused on where you're going. So keep track of your answers, but do the exercises by all means. It will enrich the program for you greatly. One more detail. You may be watching this video not so much for yourself, but because you are in a position to help or influence or guide others. Hopefully your mental health is in good shape, although be aware, no one has perfect mental health, and you too can improve. But if that's not your main goal, and it may very well not be, there are many areas where you can be influence and help and guide others. Parents are perhaps the most important person in this whole process. To be able to influence your children in a direction of possessing healthy mental health throughout life would prevent so many problems down the road. So if you are a parent and in the position of influencing your children, these videos are most especially for you. Teachers are another category of tremendously important people that are in a position to develop the thinking of individuals as they go through whatever your subject matter is, whether it's from pre-K, pre-kindergarten, kindergarten, grammar school, middle school, high school, college, graduate school, counselor education programs. There is already at least one counselor educator who has employs this series of videos, and not these series of videos, but the written material that's available otherwise on this topic, already included in her curriculum, and that is much appreciated. But if you are a teacher in any way, these materials can be used by you as a part of your curriculum to the advantage and to the increase in the quality of your program. Mental health professionals. Mental health professionals are by and large consumed with the task of assessing, diagnosing, and treating mental and nervous disorders. And that is as it should be. But too often we forget that the client or patient that we are dealing with has a mental health separate from the issues that brought them into our practice. And this is derelict of duty to not pay attention to the client's mental health over and above the presenting problem and the issues that brought them to therapy in the first place. It is a great adjunct and a complementary to any mental health protocol to include mental health awareness. One more category of individuals who could use this material very profitably in their professional work, and that is those working in the behavioral health addictions field. There is no addictions protocol that would not benefit from having mental health awareness at its core. There is no, I would deem it very unlikely, very much more difficult for recovery to continue with individuals, no matter the quality of the program, without being aware of and improving their basic mental health in other aspects of their life other than their problems with usage. So with all of these opportunities for influencing others with mental health awareness, look for those opportunities to do so. Just make sure that you practice what you preach. I don't like those kind of trite statements, but it's never been more true. You cannot do good work in suggesting to others to improve their mental health unless you understand what that is, some of the objections your clients or those that you are influencing are going to run into, and unless you yourself have been able to make some changes that are beneficial to you, then you can speak authoritatively. Now, before closing, let's consider what this is going to cost you. You didn't think it was going to be cost-free, did you? Well, if you did, you're right. Many times you'll run into, see advertisements for someone offering a small bit of a program such as this very video that will is designed to entice you to continue on to the program. And that's exactly what this video is all about, hoping that you will be sufficiently interested to continue with the rest of the series. The difference is that many times people are going to charge for the rest of the program. But our motto at Initiative for Mental Health Awareness, Inc. is that mental health is free. And what this means is that all the rest of this series of videos is completely free to you. There is no charge. The only charge is what it will take in your time and effort and energy and perseverance to go through the program. But if you are willing to make that investment of your time in your own success, then you now have, perhaps for the first time, a clear-cut way of doing exactly that. Yes, the program is entirely free. There's nothing that you're going to have to purchase in order to get the full program. That said, however, many times people would like to express their appreciation and for value received. I've been in preparing these lectures and talking about it to a lot of people. Almost universally, it has been suggested to charge for the program. But I'm not willing to do that because, as I said, mental health is free and I want you to have access to it. But if you do appreciate the material and find it valuable to you, you are more than welcome to make a tax-deductible contribution. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible contribution organization under the laws of the country, United States, and you may make that contribution tax-free. Also, you will have a sense of satisfaction, a sense of accomplishment in knowing that you are helping to promote and expand the program well beyond where it is today. Whether you make a contribution or not, please be sure to subscribe to this channel once. You don't need to do it more than once, of course, and to like each video as you go through them. It is important for us to be able to use the metrics that derive from your reactions to subscribing and to liking the videos. We use those metrics to measure the success of the program, and you would be entirely correct to know that knowing the success of the program is very important to me. So please like the program and subscribe to it as well. When you subscribe, you will get further emails and perhaps videos or made aware of new videos as they become available on this channel relating to the topic, the application of it, how it's used, some of the grievous problems that arise from poor mental health can be used as an example. So when you subscribe to the program, you'll become a part of this mental health awareness community and be able to keep up with and contribute to its progress from now on out. Okay, are you ready to get started? Great. If so, here's your first assignment. Simply answer the question, what is mental health? That's been our topic today in general, but we have not fully defined it yet. So write down your own answer. And be sure to write it down, not just verbally think about it for a little bit, but write down your answer, mull over it, scratch it out, rewrite it, and consider carefully what is mental health. This is not for you to examine what your own state of your own mental health is at this point. That's not where we're going with this. I just want you to get a clear concept in your own mind of what you think mental health is. When you write those down and keep your answers in a file, it will give you a good history of where you've been, and as mentioned a little earlier, a continuing guide as to where you're going. Okay, well, that, my friends, is about it for this first video. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to your continued participation. Do so by going to the next video, which will take up the topic of the first component of mental health, a part of the definition, which is basic beliefs. Basic beliefs form an integral part of the definition, and that is what we will be examining next. So pick up that after you've done the exercises for this video and you are ready to go ahead. Don't rush all of this. You've been where you are and are in the state that you are in over a long period of time. And to rush to judgment, to rush the decision making, to rush the changes would be a mistake. Take each step slowly and carefully and begin with this consideration of basic beliefs. Well, that's it. Remember, please always make mental health awareness and healthy mental health a top priority. That's it. Take care. Bye-bye.